Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first finalist, the former world champion Terran in the blue from Team Liquid. It's Clim, facing off against his longtime rival, the Protoss in red, the mysterious MaxPax. In a best of 5, Terran versus Protoss grand finals to another episode of TKL's Monday Night Weekly Tournament. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,756 likes on this video and this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As Clem playing things surprisingly safe to start off, the Reaper just scouting for proxies around. Did he scout with an SCV? Of course not. The only time he sends an SCV out is to engineering bay block. Otherwise, the Reaper can handle it. And a command center on the high ground. So, trying to prevent any sort of small counterattacks with, say, an Adept, hypothetically, from doing enough damage or dragging his units back when he clearly wants to put the pressure on. But at the same time, MaxPax already has a shield battery at his natural, anticipating this sort of poke and prod in the early game that can be absolutely devastating if you're unprepared, and just mildly inconveniencing if you are. Meanwhile, the first Adept, the Shade, trying to counteract. And, well, doesn't get in range of the shield battery, just loses it. And one of the Reapers gets out. I mean, trading for an Adept is pretty good to start. The shield battery prevents any sort of probe damage. He wasn't going to get any further. The Adept trying to contemplate this door-based technology, but the Protoss just simply don't have the mind for it. So many gates, not a single door. Unfortunately, cancels the Shade just in time for the Cyclone to lock on, keep it at lock-on's length, and knock it out. So, for the cost of 1 Reaper so far, 2 Adepts taken down, which is not incredible, but it's not the end of the world, as clearly MaxPax is angling for the Blink Stalkers. The Adepts themselves more of a relatively expensive yet expendable scout unit for most of the game, until they're just a liability. Once the armies get large enough. They're just not good enough at anything but annoying workers, okay? Kind of like Blizzard nowadays. Meanwhile, Medevac boosting forward. And right now, only 2 Stalkers standing sentry with no sentries behind them to help defend. So the Cyclone locks on immediately. The Stalker has to trot away. 2 more Stalkers warped in on the low ground. Gonna try to take a sip of the shield battery. Cyclone takes some hits, more warped into the main. Blink still pretty far off. Another Stalker taking a permanent bruising. But with 1 more HP than it needed, helps take out the Helien at the natural. And now it's MaxPax's turn. He's going to flip the script. The Warp Prism comes out, and 4 gates indicate a significant intent on aggressive pressure. Instead of a 3rd Nexus, he's invested in having more Stalkers earlier. So going to try to get some damage done in Clem's base. The Reaper tries to die. Okay. To the ends of the earth. And I'm sure Clem knows the timing for Blink. Clem is actually the #1 Protoss versus Terran player by win rate in the world. But there's a big caveat there. He doesn't have to play against Clem. So that's a pretty big sticking point for both MaxPax and Hero. But right now, MaxPax putting the pressure on. Clem with a strong bulwark here. The entire intent making it difficult. Create sort of a choke point for the Blink Stalkers where you can just keep them quarantined where the siege tanks get big hits. Looks like he's doing the same thing, clearly baiting. He's waiting for MaxPax to blink into this location. And MaxPax will immediately oblige. Yanks out the Stalkers with the Warp Prism though, the safety line there. Clearly prepared for such an eventuality. The dueling between these two is always so... like, they're both 2 steps ahead of each other. Just a beautiful dance. A dance of death. But a dance nonetheless. Blink and you might miss it. First Stalker goes forward. Observer spotted. Knocked out, but too late for the Siege Tank. Ghetto blinking the Stalkers with the Prism. The boys have to be pulled off the line. Siege Tank and Bunker taken down. 4 SCVs with it. A few will be gunned down by the Marines and Marauders. But there's no stim. There's no combat shield. There's no +1. That's what the production tab is for. But I'll read it for you. And loads up into the medevac. MaxPax clearly either spotted a glimpse of it or anticipating something exactly like this. Obviously, with the siege tanks, Clem can hold a position back at home, but he's not going to come across the map with just one, and the Blink Stalkers on the field. Defends, 2 SCVs taken out. Meanwhile, boosting all the way by the Stalkers. They predicted the third base, but the main itself, the pre-scan, recall back. God, they know each other so well. The greatest frenemies in StarCraft 2. MaxPax anticipating the medevac, but Clem anticipating the recall. Scans forward, meanwhile, and then spotting the warp prism with another pre-scan, and will knock it out of the sky. It did great work in keeping Clem at... This is crazy. Look at this. Factorio setup. Actually, 0 space, I assume, between those, so that way you run no risk of getting your unit stuck while being... I've never seen anyone make a 2-tier wall like this, but Clem doing some... whatever the opposite of Hero does with his buildings. Meanwhile, the Marines are dropping out. Unfortunately, the medevac already badly bruised. The main army under attack, though. An Immortal, some charge lots, emotional support fields, and Clem will dance away from it for now. But with charge already completed and an Immortal on the field, Clem, I think, correctly anticipates his army's about to get crushed if he doesn't back off. Moves to intercept the medevac army, or the army that was chasing the medevac. The medevac itself is barely on the minimap. I wasn't sure if that was a glitch or not, but no. It's just sitting in the corner for now, waiting for its it doesn't even show up. It's not even there. Boosts in. That the Spylon is in place, and the Moopies are waiting for their next meal. Clearly not a reference to any sort of other Star franchise. Legally, I have to say that. Like and subscribe so I can afford my lawyer. Meanwhile, extended thermal lance on the way for the Colossi. Concussive shells for Clem. Angling more into the Marauders. It's going to be Colossi standing overhead for MaxPax to hold things at bay. Whereas Clem with the Marines, the Mines, the Medevacs, and the Marauders, the M&M and M&M, he didn't pull the boys with the tank attack. Clearly not going all in. And honestly, if the game goes on long enough, I think almost always it'll favor Clem. Both because of the matchup and because he's Clem, as he knocks down the first Colossus with extreme prejudice, and Immortal not living up to its name either. The charge lots will be warped in, but maybe too little and too late. But look at MaxPax's supply. He has so many charge lots collapsing from either side. Widowmine dragged in. Tanks will be saved for now. The Marines and Marauders in autumn colors. So, does he spot that observer? Right overhead. And fun fact, sometimes you'll see it in the player cam, but if you actually zoom in and out, the observer looks like it's moving. You'll occasionally see, if you're watching streams and stuff of players, just them jiggling the zoom. Yeah, fun fact. For Terrans, I guess. Marines and Marauders need to recover from those stims. The Medevac's doing their best, though running low on energy. Already Vikings in production. Well, he doesn't need to anticipate the Colossus switch, as clearly he already knocked down one of them, and rarely do you just stick with one. One Colossus is just kind of sad. 2 is dangerous, and 3 is a statement. Is it enough? Well, it really depends on the Vikings. Single Marine. 4 kills! Is that the remnant of the drop? Actually, what happened to the drop? I think it was eventually taken out. He's lost 1 medevac, so that seems to tell a story. The army seemed... 21 Marauders, only 10 Marines. Almost exclusively Marauders. The wheat from the chaff here. But MaxPax maintaining a huge supply. The fact that he's ahead of Clem. And now the siege tanks. Where are the Vikings? A couple coming up. Only 2 Colossi. Enough Stalkers to zone the Vikings out. At least if they're in the right spot for it. An attempt at a counterattack. Meanwhile, the Marauders shoving into position, isolating the base, and might be able to take it out. MaxPax not going to give it away for free. But the force field's kind of zoning out his own army. He's actually going forward. More charge lots from the south. And the game has changed. The tanks are taken down. The Vikings knocked out of the sky. The Medevacs forced to boost away. And MaxPax, it'll cost him a lot of supply. But he holds his ground and drives the Terrans back. He took out the parts of the army that could easily knock out his Colossi. And another warp-in round. MaxPax is keeping up with Clem's production. which is quite impressive in this stage of the game when Terrans usually take the supply lead and the Protoss are relegated to their power units. But he's had the income lead, aggressively expanding throughout the field. He has 10 gateways and has been pumping out of that robotics facility. Double Forge as well. The upgrades going to be pretty heavily in MaxPax's favor as Clem just started his 2-2. 3 Colossi, just 2 Vikings to match him. Observer spots a fight it can definitely take. Clem split off 3 medevacs of units over to the left side. There's not enough energy for recall. He's going to take down the base, and here we go. It's a trade, to say the very least. We'll see who comes out on top. 15 SCVs incinerated by the extended thermal lances of the Colossi, but the Vikings in a great position over the top. Clem will knock out one of the Nexi for pretty much free. The reinforcements may have to pull back. There's a recall available at the natural. Might be able to cancel the 4th base. The 3rd floated away. If there was going to be a recall, it needs to be now. Needs to group up the army. He's just waiting. He's actually going to fight the drop with a single Colossus. Clem's down 30 supply and MaxPax sees no reason to recall when he could just try to intercept the army on the other side. MaxPax loses a Nexus. Well, we can see. Overall, MaxPax lost a Colossus and some charge lots alongside the Nexus. He takes out a building command center and a whole bunch of SCVs. So Clem's army is still very dangerous, though slightly less so when the Stalkers come in, knock down another medevac. The Colossi getting caught at the wrong angle. The Vikings finding a great opportunity, and a reinforcing Colossus will be knocked down on either side, and suddenly it's just gateway units. And Clem, with 2-2 upgrades closing in, might have an opportunity to chase the army down and maybe eliminate it. That is the biggest risk at this stage of the game for MaxPax. He might have the economic lead, but if he can't maintain enough DPS in his army, if he can't maintain the level of splash damage to burn through the medevac healing and the potential damage output of the bio army, it doesn't really matter. How many games have we seen where a Protoss is at 200 supply, but they have too many probes and it becomes a real problem? You need to have the splash damage or the ability to trade so regularly that they can never move out of their base. And right now, Clem has more army supply. He's only down 1 upgrade. And considering most of the army is charge lots, it's going to be a tough fight to take. The ghosts have been added in. EMP can strip away a whole lot of the effective HP of the army as well. Concussive shells, making sure those charge lots not nearly as quick. A single Marine finding its way by. Try to chase down that last Colossus. The Vikings might be able to do the damage before it gets any more swipes off. EMP strips away the shields on the Immortal, but Clem is just tearing through everything. 140 army supply. The charge lots coming in. Throws out some EMPs. Liberator helping out over the top. The Stalkers not targeted on it yet. More EMPs just grinding through the charge lots. Liberator's taken down, but the Vikings hit the deck as well. Another Observer's taken out. Energy recharges a Sentry. Pre-Guardian Shield. Marauder around the side. 2 Colossi at a time. The double robotics production is required. Another base to the top right corner. A double drop split off for Clem. He's on a mule-based economy, but the stables are running dry, and MaxPax with a 2,000 resource lead. EMP's the Nexus just enough to prevent a recall. Knocks it out with relative ease. They'll expect one of us in the... Ooh. Wreckage, brother. Meanwhile, another base. Couple Zealots sneak by. Clem down to 35 SCVs. But right now, he's dropping more bases than a Skrillex album. Gets into the main. Stalkers knock out the medevac. Just running their way through, trying to take out the charge lots. A Templar Archives will now be completed. The Nexus not rebuilt on the left side. MaxPax down to 4 Nexi against 3 command centers. Clem floats his main orbital command to the 3rd. He is on, right now, mule-based stimulus checks. And they can't last forever because eventually the minerals will mine out. It doesn't matter how good mules are or are not if you have no minerals to mine from. Storm is on the way. And Clem doesn't really have the economy to be rebuilding Ghosts or Vikings if he doesn't have to. There are 4 Colossi, and with Storm, even though EMP is an existential threat, those Colossi will easily burninate across the countryside, no matter where the ghosts are. And since they're light units nowadays, putting them in a separate category from many others, including your mother, oh no, the Warp Prism, there's no Templar in there. Gonna try for a Warp in, maybe? Doesn't even drop out the last Zealot. Well, MaxPax is nearly maxed out, and he's packs in his bags, going across the map. Clem trying to turtle up, but his economy is stretched incredibly thin. 43 SCVs is barely enough to keep going. The Stalker's blinking in. MaxPax maxed out. The Templar spreading out, trying to force a single EMP on each one. Another Storm. The Vikings still in position to knock out the Colossi. The EMP's around the side. There's no more Storms to follow this up. And the Terran army is chasing through, trying to get a few more swipes on the already badly bruised Terrans, but it's not enough. And Clem wipes out over 50 supply nearly instantaneously. But the backstab. The charge lots are able to kill 9 more SCVs. And Clem, despite the victory on the field, has to keep coming back to deal with the charge lots. MaxPax may have a moment to rebuild. The Ghosts still have plenty of energy for EMP. The Vikings. The Storm, a dangerous force field, but nothing more now. More charge lots slicing through the 3rd base. A lot of the reinforcements being cut off. MaxPax has had the income lead for all of the last 10 minutes in varying quantities. The army supply still heavily in favor of Clem. He won't be getting any more upgrades, but 3-2 versus 3-3. EMP hits the Templar, Snipe finishes it off. Oh wait, there's more! Another Nexus. MaxPax rebuilt the center. The Storm, a historical and practical counter to the Vikings, as our Danish player MaxPax should know better than most. The death ball of Terran is slowly being whittled down as MaxPax with 83 probes against 28 SCVs. EMP evaporates the Archons. Still 2 Colossi at a time. The charge lot's cutting off the counterattack. And MaxPax gets a few more moments to rebuild, playing almost a nomad Protoss style, somewhat ironically, against the Terrans who have to float their orbital commands. Another Templar. And the charge lots come in for another round. The ghost count being whittled down. Vikings down to 4. 2 Colossi. He has plenty of probes to spare, but not the money to build the Nexus to mine from. Charge lots out in front. Medevac's nearly entirely out of energy. Has to keep stimming. And so far he's been winning, but MaxPax fighting this war of attrition. The quest rests on the edge of a knife. Down goes another Nexus, but the charge lots again. Clem at 23 SCVs and dropping. The reinforcements aren't enough to deal with it. Some good micro back at home. Clem rotating around again, but MaxPax... There's no more Vikings! They were taken out with the last fight. 2 Colossi and a Templar behind. Cutting around the edges. The Storm looking for the back line. The Widowmine takes it out. The Nexus lives! And now 3 Colossi might be too hot to handle. The double drop, taking a precarious pathing, but he's cutting whatever corners he can. If he cuts too many, though, he'll be left without an edge. The Zealots gunned down easily. The army supply still in Clem's favor. He's down barely more SCVs than he started with. MaxPax still trying to find next side to mine from. He's also running into that lack of mineral patch issue. The Templar! He looked away at the last second, and the Nexus will be taken down. And we're going into a base trade as both of them struggling. I was trying to be more articulate than that, but I'm also... Everyone's struggling right now. The reinforcements are almost non-existent. MaxPax taking it to a full base trade. He has almost nothing at home to defend but 1 Templar with Storm. Enough to hold Clem at bay for now. There's only one base with mineral patches at all. And now he's incinerating the last SCVs. Clem down to 7. It's a Wings of Liberty game at this point. The command center will burn. Be taken down. The Colossi. There's no anti-air. He picks up and he heads for the main. MaxPax down to 39 probes. He still has 4 Nexi. Wait, what? Yes. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. He rebuilt the Nexus down the center. The production tab is empty. Clem relands one of the command centers at the former 3rd base location. Still 3 Colossi, 3 Templar, which should be enough. Another storm on the ramp, softens it up. The energy isn't there on the medevacs. He can't even heal his units back to full. The Zealots take... He's at 5 SCVs. 4. Clem. MaxPax looking for an angle, but Clem looking for an angle. MaxPax seems to be acutely aware of everyone at this stage. There's not enough. There's still storms. There's still Colossi. No Vikings or Ghosts left to deal with it. Enough on the ground to zone it all out. He picks up, and the Blink Stalkers will hold for now. Dropping out yet again into the 3rd base, and actually there's not that much to deal with it here. Clem still finding opportunities. And chasing down the medevacs, but down the center! Yet again, Clem gonna deny all of the mining. He might even be able to get some of these Templar. Another storm will force an Archon merge. 13 probes left. The Stalkers will be targeted, but the medevac with all the units is taken down, and MaxPax takes the entire game. Clem with 0 SCVs at the end. MaxPax without a Nexus next to minerals. MaxPax trying to get... He went entirely wide, while Clem went very tall. And eventually, MaxPax was able to withstand it. But at what cost? 200 Zealots, 11 Colossi. A exhausting game. But the base trades eventually work out. It was a... risky business. There are 2 choices, really, in the extreme late game for Protoss. At least from what we see nowadays. One is that attrition base trade style, where you rely on having so many more resources than the Terran. You eventually whittle them down and run them over, which is always very risky when Clem is involved. But the other option is Sky Toss, which has its own weaknesses, especially considering much of the time they're building... Nope, not Clem, MaxPax. I know, we won the late game. It's rare. But Sky Toss, because they're already building and upgrading Vikings, that makes Sky Toss a bit of a risky endeavor as well. As if you don't hit hard enough to wipe out their economy with your first wave, then they're just going to run you over. So you need to essentially discourage or knock out the Vikings and then bring in carriers or Tempests in order to overwhelm the army. And it really depends on the map. On a relatively small map with minimal bases, like Taito Citadel, Sky Toss seems like a ill-fated plan. Whereas a map more like Old Republic, this one, you could probably get away with it, as there's a couple more bases to work with. It's a little harder to narrow down the economy to literally less than 10 workers or 1 mining base. And we'll see. MaxPax, yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was incredibly close. But also, yes, MaxPax won a 20-plus minute late game against Clem. Which, it's been We got him. Great job, Billy. Thank you, Sarge. Very wholesome today. First blood goes to the SCVs with the citizen's arrest of the probe. Clearly, a bit spiteful at this stage, I'm sure. Reaper headed across. Did he SCV scout? Of course not. Remember, NG Bay block or no SCV scout. Those are the two options. Twilight Council's on the way. And I do want to mention, this is part of TKL's, the French caster, the Monday Night Weekly Tournament, which is reliant on community support whenever possible. So you can find a link in the description, or if Jimmy remembers, in the pinned comment, to support the tournament on a regular basis and give us our weekly Clem versus pick your Protoss here. I mean, top tier games. Also, you already support, at least if you're on Patreon, one of the tournaments that I use the Patreon money to support as well. So either way, though directly is obviously great. This time around, Clem, with the 1 Rax expand, less focused on getting the damage done early, and a lot more on just getting his economy. I don't know, I zoned out in the middle of that sentence, which was a little embarrassing. Meanwhile, Adept getting double teamed by the Reaper Helien, but we'll see if the Shade, oh, we're dancing away. If he doesn't kill it before the Shade, but oh no. Down it goes. The Reaper lives. And the Adept, not so much. Fades into the ether, or whatever space heaven that the Protoss are working with. I don't know where plants go after they die. Blink is the choice, but on seeing Clem go for the 1 Rax expand, it looks like MaxPax feeling a bit safe for himself as well. Just going to be the quick 3 base with a couple gates. Robotics facility nearly complete, but it won't be in time to save him from the initial Widowmine drop. Meanwhile, distracting with the Reaper Helien. Widowmine burrows, probe's already pulled away. Are we gonna try a sacrifice? But the Widowmine trying to re-burrow, but just not quite in place. He has blank, but retargeting, recalculating, and the medevac! Oh, everybody edging here. Oh my god. Oh, sweet Tassadar, that was close. MaxPax forgot about the Widowmine as he was about to send all of his probes stacked up. And that could have been a game-ending disaster. But he remembers at the last second and isolates and kills it. The Raven headed out towards the natural. Stalkers, though, anticipating and knocking it down. Meanwhile, the medevac is literally in the very corner of the map. Another can barely see it on the minimap situation. The Stalkers are looking to intercept it on the way home, expecting him to eventually pass by this location. He has a single Stalker leaning out like out the passenger side. Hey, we don't want no scrubs. I don't sorry. But and dun 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 dun. It's coming. And he gets it! His patience pays off. I don't even know if MaxPax realized. If he looks over there and sees the Stalker has 1 kill, he may very well, but he put himself in position to take advantage of the opportunity and eventually capitalizes on it. What are words? Okay. Nailed it. Enunciate. Is that a French word? No! The Raven makes it back. Helps knock out the Observer. No longer going to be slapping missile turrets into the mineral line, but the Stalkers are already in position. Ooh. Spots the tank. And... well, this is a bit awkward. Hello? Yep. The Stalker's looking to intercept, but they already dropped out of the medevac. And the Stalkers themselves managed to blink over the top, and MaxPax so dangerous on the field. Yet so far, Clem is able to avoid most of the disaster. Only one medevac taken down by the very ambitious Stalkers so far. Storm is the choice. The Colossi did seem a bit unsteady in the previous game. Though, I guess they did enough eventually. A second robotics facility and a robotics bay. You see, Hero would have just built the robo bay at the front. But MaxPax is very much not Hero. He builds a second robo at the third and a robo bay in the main where it could be much more easily protected. Clem kind of resigning himself to the much more defensive style of Terran now that his attempts at moving out have been almost completely shut down. MaxPax has done an incredible job of zoning out and knocking down any unit that moves out of the base so far. He knows the map, of course, is dark and full of Terrans. So lighting it up with observers, with stalkers, is seemingly priority number one. Fourth base almost done. Clem, Ghost Academy, getting his armory and second engineering bay. The Viking and Raven combination will zone out the Warp Prism, which does not have has Zealots in it. So, could actually chase, but doesn't want to risk it. Could very well be Stalkers, even at this stage. Templar and Colossi, a much more passive game. Last game, we just punching each other in the face over and over and over and over. And now we're just going to take a breather in what is almost a no-rush 10 minutes. Not quite. We had the Widowmine drop. Skirmishing between the medevacs and the Warp Prism and the Blink Stalkers. But now, after 9 minutes of macro time, MaxPax is ready to move out. Clem still chilling back at home. The Raven, that Stalker, has 3 kills, actually. I don't know if it got him beforehand. You know, it really should count the kills you get from... like, if you kill a medevac with 8 Marines inside, that's not 1 kill. That is 9. Oh, yes, 9 kills. But that might actually be a tactical advantage. That way you could see exactly how many units were inside a dropship, so... the auto turrets to try to break out against 1 Stalker. It has drawn so much attention from Clem. And he hasn't been looking for the army, which is currently on his doorstep. What a move out of MaxPax. There's absolutely no vision. There's no sensor tower. There's no scouting. He was dealing with that Stalker. And now, the Storms will zone things out. A single Colossus isn't quite enough. As the Templar... extended thermal lance isn't quite completed yet. Mine is further along, and the Vikings will help zone out the Colossus. The Storms actually ripping through many of the Terran units. Casual Archon comes in. The Stalkers will join up and knock out the siege tanks. Though, 5, 6 Templar with their fancy capes, an Archon and 6 Stalkers, but in the main base, that's where everybody went. The charge lots get in. A dozen SCVs will be cut down. But in the streets of the base, the charge lots will easily be dispatched by the bio army. And both sides exploding into action. MaxPax may be a bit unwieldy, but he takes out the siege tanks and he whittles down the bio army. And refilling with a much larger economy. Now that he killed 12 SCVs and he has 2 more mining bases, or at least 1 at this stage, he clearly has the ability to play this war of attrition. He's going up to 14 gateways, has 2 robotics facilities, but Clem is maxed out with Vikings. And I think he's just going to wait for the 2-2 upgrades and then head across the map. There's no more reason, well, unless he's willing to get a fusion core and play the full turtle style, there's really no more reason to stay at home. Just waiting. I do think that's what he's doing, though. The full base trade War of Attrition did not work out for him. It looked okay, but eventually, MaxPax solidified his position. 3 sensor towers tells a story. That story says, I don't like going outside. Oh, sorry, that's my autobiography. But, the Blink Stalkers leading the charge, and the charge will follow it up. The Planetary Fortress drawing a lot of attention. You've seen it as the white whale for so many Protoss before, and by so many I mean hero. 5 Colossi standing tall. That robotics production has been endless, and he's building some Immortals to mix in, as 5 Colossi is enough to incinerate pretty much any unit as long as they focus their literal fire. The Planetary, the backstop here for Clem. The factory going to be driven back by the single Stalker. The Select All Army discipline, quite strong with MaxPax. EMP catches 1 Templar, but it almost has another Storm charged up. Still dancing back and forth. 7 Vikings, where are they? Behind the mineral line now. Anti-armor missile manages to Dorito dust the army. If there was ever a time to go, it'd be now. Gonna chase it down. Anti-armor missile makes it a lot easier. The 1 Colossus almost taken down instantly. And Clem is able to hold on to his 4th base. 16 gateways and 2 robos for MaxPax so far. 8 gates and 2 starports for Clem. The factory is floating somewhat. Yeah. Turrets around the corners. A Dark Shrine and a Stargate. So MaxPax going a completely different direction than the last game. Well, I guess he has the economy to do so. Not a single base has been... In fact, the only buildings taken out, a single bunker and a refinery. Clem playing full Turtle Terran. A fusion core is on the way, where MaxPax going to challenge this base before it becomes a planetary. Targets down the siege tank. Vikings. Storm over the top. Now targeting with the Stalkers. The Storm knocks down another. Only 1 Viking remains, meaning the Colossi are mostly unchallenged. The Planetary Fortress completes, but a Warp Prism makes it in, though is shut down almost immediately. And a great positioning knocks out the charge lots. Gonna chase the Colossi. And a lot of damage being done, but he hasn't actually managed to target down any of the Colossi. More coming up. And a lot of the charge lots will be shaved away, but the Medevacs are completely out of energy. He desperately needs the Caduceus reactor upgrade as soon as possible. The fusion core completed. Advanced ballistics for Liberators will be good, but that requires you to have Liberators, and right now the Liberator count is at 0, which isn't very many. +2 ship weapons. The Marauders still only at 3/4 HP. The Colossi still alive, badly bruised, but trying to target down the Planetary may be successful. The Vikings knock down 1. The Storms are good. The Archons almost as much so. The overwhelming power of this army. And the supply just evaporates. And so does Clem. I mean, it's not getting any easier for Clem as his main base and his natural are mined out. Still on the early side, but he didn't destroy a single building of MaxPax. He never... Past the first Medevac and Reaper, I don't know if he passed the halfway mark of the map. Even the Raven was struggling to get out of the base after a while. So, MaxPax with a checkmate maneuver, bringing him to match point. Like I mentioned, Old Republic, definitely a better map for locking down more bases and just kind of choking them out. Tyto Citadel, just too up close and personal, and lends itself to that more base tradey style. But Clem on the ropes so early, maybe getting whiplash from all his matches against Hero. MaxPax with a calm, collected, and careful style that doesn't always benefit Protoss, but what it does, it looks almost impossible to beat. And game number 3, match point for MaxPax. We're on Ruby Rock, another more intimate map. That's how we're going to phrase it. MaxPax even scouting the corners of his natural, just in case. You never know. Doors and corners. That's where they get you. Scouts for the proxies, and it is actually a bit of an odd... No, he's making his way to the base. Just trying to make sure it's a safer expand. Clem with only one gas. No early tech play. Very likely one Rax expand. Which does give up some of the initiative early on. But if you don't get that expansion done early, then the Protoss can just keep rallying units across and things can go from bad to worse very quickly. We kind of go back and forth. I really think it's more of a Clem versus MaxPax kind of build order meta than it is a Terran versus Protoss. Like the back and forth on early expansion versus early aggression. It's more of a poker game here than any sort of evolution of the knowledge of how Terran versus Protoss is supposed to be played. Some weeks it's just blink all in versus proxy Rax. Some weeks it's one Rax versus one gate expand. And it seems like we're on the latter end of things for the most part here. Reaper scouting around just in case he did a MaxPax build. You might be like, isn't every build MaxPax does a MaxPax build? No! That build when he first came onto the scene, the proxy one gate, a macro cheese. But now he's much more macro-roni than he is cheese. Twilight. That second gas coming up, but a very standard one Rax expand out of Clem. The Marines are in position to intercept and potentially kill the Adept. The Reaper should be able to get it now. Adept on the run, and it can't run fast enough. Another one trying to avenge it, but the Reaper, much like Protoss can't, is able to heal. Starport. And MaxPax brings us the blink yet again. We've seen the script, but it's about how the actors play it out. That really defines it. Reaper goes in, Reaper goes out. Can't explain that. Medevac it is, and this time Heliens. Ooh, spicy. Helien drop to start it off with some Marines, or Marine drop with Helien run by. You know, potato, potato. Leaving his options open, picks up the Marines into the medevac, and he'll just complete the Adept Shade and force the issue. Will he reveal? He's gonna let the Adept go by. The Adept realizing that maybe scouting was a better idea than trying to annoy one or two SCVs. Unfortunately, what he doesn't know can very much hurt him. And MaxPax got baited into committing the Adept and now doesn't have vision of the Heliens. There are a couple stalkers at the natural, but MaxPax anticipating the run by. That doesn't mean he can stop it. The Heliens, 3 of them able to take out probes in a single line of fire. And meanwhile, the Marines in the main doing a lot of damage as well. 5 kills, 8 kills, 10 kills. Oh no, it's a disaster for MaxPax. And the medevac gets out. Only 3 Marines survived, but this goes from... he has to get damage. You can't be behind on workers against a Terran for long, because if you're even, you're behind. So this is clearly worse. The casual Helien run by. The Stalkers unable to take it out in time. Clem with a double bunker defense. And the Stalkers will try to fight by it. Gonna get a few SCV kills, but now he's committed. Gonna bring the other Stalkers in. It's going to be a long road getting out of here. He blinks, but a big hit. And now the Stalker's on the other side. The Raven chases it. And the Raven gets Edgar Allan Poe'd. Meanwhile, the Warp Prism juggling back and forth. He's almost drawn parity now with the worker count, though it's cost him several Stalkers to do so. Blinking over to the side. Siege tank range. A double bunker is holding. And MaxPax acquitting himself well. Loses 4 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers in this exchange. Gets 6 SCVs. He gets the Raven, which is a moderate to large size deal. I should call your mother sometime. But Forge and Charge on the way. Kind of a low economy option. Is there Cloak? No. But there's also no Stalkers, so the Cloak doesn't matter too much. Does he have any Warp-ins? He just cancels. Ain't nobody got time for that. If there was Cloak, this would be a disaster. He's not even building an Observer, so I think he realizes it's just an uncloaked Banshee, but the damage is still being done. And 5 more probes dead. And he drags the Stalkers back. He forces the recall. The Bulwark in the main base should be enough. There's a Siege tank behind. There's no way he picks off Stimmer Combat Shield with 4 Stalkers. Another Observer in the main, but 2 Siege tanks lining it up. The double bunker is still manned at the natural. And, well, there goes the Observer. The Stalkers try to take advantage of it, but only 1 Marine will suffer for it. Immediately picks up. MaxPax knows him so well. That Stalker, oh no! The Stalker moving to the edge, but Clem just... He's actually looking to outflank here. Drops out immediately, knowing the Stalkers could easily find him on the field. But they won't. The Marines stimming forward. Ooh, almost loses a medevac, but not quite. And now the recall's on cooldown. It's a disaster yet again. It's led to another 1 sentry down. The charge lots. And some more charge lots at the back. The best hope of MaxPax to try to draw things even. But his economy is just so mediocre at this stage. Meanwhile, the Stalkers will get the Okay, alright. It wasn't quite over the little pervert pillar. Salvages one of the bunkers, and here come the siege tanks. +1 is on the way. Clim has such an advantage now. It's gonna take a few more of those. Oh, the Vikings! It's not worth. It's way too late to recall. As soon as the Vikings start hitting, 1 Viking, yes. 2, no. Longs forward, trying to take out the tanks. First Colossus, target fired by the siege tanks, but the Marauders. He's just collapsing on the army, tearing through absolutely everything, and that's it. The Clempire strikes back. MaxPax knocked out. And Clem with a decisive victory off of that Helien run by, watching MaxPax's chances of a clean sweep go up in flames. With just the slight adjustment, the Heliens able to do critical damage. MaxPax, he skipped the bunker at the natural. Not the bunker, the shield battery. If he could build a bunker, that'd be nice, but I don't know what you'd be able to put into it. Let me stab him out of the bunker with my zealots. But Clem's slight adjustment gets critical damage done. And now MaxPax is on the back foot. An SCV Scout? Notice my suspicion that Scout might not be the right word. Oh. Yeah, Clem doesn't scout. He builds alternative. Now, MaxPax scouted this exact sort of thing. He scouted with the probe in this last map. We saw him move the probe looking for a proxy. But he doesn't do it this time. Oh no. It's a disaster! Now, and MaxPax isn't someone who's going to misclick his probe to build the Nexus. Now, he got the probe. Okay, so he got the probe and he sees the double gas. He knows there's a severe lack of barracks in this base. So he's going to get the Cyber Core first. The SCV. Going to block the base. He slaps down a bunker. He's not even trying to be subtle about it. Is he's going to complete the bunker? Okay. Does he knows that's real, right? Like there's a huh. This is very so MaxPax just takes another base. This is a bunker, not an engineering bay. Very key point. And that's going to cut off the circulation between the bases. He's going to keep building Reapers. He's got a factory on the way. So far, incredible probe micro, but it is just probes. He gets one. The Stalker's about to come out, but the kills, that's two. And MaxPax did not build a Zealot, which isn't great against Reapers, but helps to sandbag this somewhat. Yeah, he spots the base. The SCV retreats to the prison of its own design. Well, might be a little bit strong wording there, but now a Helien on the way. But Clem has decided to take the series back into his hands. And right now, it feels like this base was not respecting the fact that there was literally a bunker. Yeah, he can't do anything about it. He's chasing the Stalkers into the main. 3 Reapers can fight 1 Stalker easily. 2 Stalkers is more of a long-term process. But the Stalkers cannot be repaired. I don't think that SCV is feeling very intent on helping out the Protoss here. And he's gonna fight. He's looking to win the game. Like, fight the Stalkers and win the game. Out comes the Stalker. Flanks him from the gateway. Great grenade. Looking for a second Stalker, and if he loses the critical mass... Well... Now there's nothing to put in the bunker, but he does have 2 Heliens. So... He recalls... probes. Wait, what? What is going on here? There's a Phoenix on the way, what? So... He manages to salvage the bunker before any damage is done interrupting it. I guess MaxPax's lack of... Whoa, the Heliens! Oh, not again! The shield battery, it does nothing! 3 Heliens just go right through it. He picks up 8 probes dead. Stop right there, criminal scum. But the bunker Helien. And even though the bunker, it didn't do much damage, he's gonna block the base with a barracks. There's another bunker at home. Does he even have any Marines? No. A siege tank comes out at fortuitous timing. He tries to siege it up, which seems optimistic. I think he needs to unsiege it. This is getting so weird. Meanwhile, the Viking lands. He can repair the tank in the air with the SCVs, yet they cannot attack the Phoenixes. Riddle me that. Meanwhile, the Viking is fighting the Stalkers. The SCVs are fighting the damage of the Phoenixes. What am I watching? Yeah, he does not... The Viking is safe on the ground because there's not enough energy to lift it back into the air where it's supposed to be. The barracks is landed. Ah! What is this madness? A bunker, just a placeholder in every sense of the word. The SCVs 4 Phoenixes doing a great job of narrowing this down. MaxPax is back to having the worker lead, such as it is. Stim is on the way. The Phoenixes just gliding through into the main, picking off 1 or 2 SCVs as they have energy. And the Viking count isn't high enough, but maybe with a Cyclone and some Marines. Colossus Den in production. The robotics facility is at the 3rd base. It feels like Clem will have a timing. Sorry, I zoned out because this game is so off-center. I actually have to think. It's hard. Like and subscribe for thinking. Didn't think about that one. I think there's a timing before the Colossus, before there's at least extended thermal lance. A single Colossus is not particularly intimidating, and he only has 1 gate. Filling in 4 more now. But as the first 2 medevacs come out, might be the best opportunity for Clem to get damage done. Otherwise, he's kind of forced into his base by the Phoenixes. Extended thermal lance has begun. Combat shield on the way for Clem. He's already filled in stim. Single Marine. Oh, nope. Yanks it. And now mass gateway production. MaxPax closing up the gaps quite quickly. He doesn't have a great economy, but he does have, the scan actually spots the army. Knows Colossi are on the way. More Vikings in production. Just 2 medevacs with the army. And going for mess. Is he going to pull the boys despite having a 2nd starport out of Clem? In order to knock down the Phoenixes. Now, the Phoenixes are the important quantity here. The Phoenixes can zone out about an equal number of Vikings, especially with no ghosts on the field. Making the Colossi a lot stronger, as there's no direct counter to them, at least not easily. Factories forced to land. The tanks and the medevacs. And the tanks can besiege the base from the other side. I think even out of range of the Colossi. And Clem about to take great advantage of that. The Vikings are zoning out the Phoenixes. 1 almost knocked down before the fight really starts. 6 probes dead in the first volley. Assimilator going to be hit as well. More Archons. And Clem kind of forcing the issue. He can't quite get in range of the Nexus, but he can completely deny the base. MaxPax looking to collapse on this army. And the Vikings not quite in position to deal with it. He's forced to retreat, but the charge lots on the other side. The jaws of MaxPax, metaphorically, of course, close in. And the Vikings will be knocked out of the sky. The Colossi still very much alive. Though Clem has a lot of supply to fall back to. The 3rd base down the center. Vikings cutting back. Another few join up with the army. Guardian Shield helping out a lot. Most of the Phoenixes are still alive, though. Getting picked off 1 by 1. The Colossi trying to chase. An optimistic Warp Prism will be knocked out. The reinforcements will not be happening. And now more Vikings showing up. Target firing the Colossi. Cutting back at either side. Split Vikings. The Marauders microing back. Waiting till the Colossi are knocked down. The charge lots a little distracted by the SCVs. They needed to be on the front line, and now the rest of the bio can chase it down. Vikings hit the deck. Reinforcements are on the way across, but they're taking so long because the Warp Prism was knocked down. Immortal! There's no upgrades at all for MaxPax. No Forge whatsoever. And it's +1 bio. He has a 30 supply lead. Because MaxPax got kind of strung out trying to chase all this. And now even a Widow Mine is going to help out. No drilling claws, of course, at this stage. The factory's busy just sitting off in a corner. No longer part of the production line, at least for now. The double starport production out of Clem. Kind of a rare sight, but prompted by the early Stargate. This started with a placeholder bunker rush into a Helien run-by. Quite an interesting path we've taken to get here. But now it's Storm and Charge lots up against a solid amount of Terran with an inordinate amount of starport units. 9 Vikings, 6 medevacs, making up a huge chunk of the army supply. MaxPax gonna try to collapse on the army, and we'll see whether Clem can weather the storms. The charge lots in the mineral line, still waiting with the second flank. Ghosts now in production. The storms, but Marauders coming in, picking up several more Templar. There's just not that much in front. Wading through, reinforcements on the way. Most of the Vikings on the ground. Here come the rest of the charge lots. The storms doing an okay job so far, but they're gone. The SCVs are taking the brunt of the damage. The medevacs are helping him heal through. 1 Viking in the air. Doesn't quite take down. A relatively slow-moving fight, but MaxPax does not have the numbers here. The Warp Prism forced to retreat, but the Marines might get out from under it, and it's just too much. Clem, able to use the SCVs to buffer the damage, and the critical mass of Terran brings us to full match point. The ace match, 2-2, as Clem takes back 2 in a row. MaxPax going too far, digging too deep and too greedily. And now we have game 5. Winter Madness is also the name of the final map in this Monday Night Weekly series. Again, make sure to check out the Monday Night Weeklies. If you have the means and motivation to support it directly, you'll find a link in the comments and the description, Jimmy. It's not hard to copy paste. What do you mean no one looks at the description? I know that. I know. Sorry. Come on. Winter Madness. MaxPax taking the more drawn-out macro games, but Clem, if he's able to get a single advantage early, get the it's been Heliens both times. The Heliens getting an inordinate amount of damage because MaxPax does such a good job of kind of a bare-bones defense. But the Heliens require much more. They're a big commitment out of Terran because they're not good at almost anything but killing probes. Like Cyclones or Widow Mines have value as part of the army. The Heliens, let's be honest, not so much. And this time, MaxPax is checking his corners. As even though the bunker rush was kind of mediocre, oh no. It's an NG Bay block. Clem trying another way of getting the early edge. And the NG Bay block can certainly turn things sideways. I was just... the silence. A lot of thinking to be done today, as MaxPax has a very different sort of... he has a much more pragmatic outlook on everything. He has a flow chart, clearly. The amount of time... it's kind of crazy. Hero just flails and hits things like a drunken brawler, but MaxPax is the chess master here. So many times so far, he has predicted what Clem is going to do. And unfortunately, he hasn't quite had the response in the last couple games. But it feels like he is 2 steps ahead of Clem. It's just, that might be too far and missing the forest for the trees. Or, you know, the Heliens for the factory or something profound like that. Just pretend I said something smart. I always like to think I did. I don't always remember what I say, but when I do, it was very dumb. And many years ago. Just like any of us. Like and subscribe for Existential Dread. There. Widowmon this time around. Not going back to the Heliens. Now, a shield battery is good. 3 Heliens are enough damage to go through the probes. 2 Heliens damage the probes enough that a second volley usually kills them. Is why they're so dangerous. But of course, against very quick blink stalkers, Heliens are not nearly as good, as you kind of just die to a counterattack usually. So, first medevac is on the way for the early Widowminder up. And a tech lab immediately after. On the factory, that is, to be clear. Probably should describe that for our blind viewers. Shout out to the blind viewers, as always. We kind of have to. Blink is on the way. I was looking forward to the Dark Shrine on Old Republic. Nope, stay at home, Billy. Someone's got to guard the home front. Adept forces the SCV transfer to be slightly delayed as the orbital comes across. Robotics facility at the very front for MaxPax. The Adept, he has to know something's on its way across. In fact, already moving to potentially intercept the medevac. Blink is a long way off. The medevac boosts forward, the Spylon in a perfect spot to zone this out. And Clem's just not going to bother. But there is another option. He forced him into the third base, or the front base, rather. So now trying to take advantage of that before MaxPax can react. And Blink's still far enough off that it's going to be very difficult to deal with this. He could go straight for the pylon, potentially. Going to target the probes directly. The Stalker, the Adept, sacrificed on the altar of making sure the Stalkers can move through. And 2 probes dead. But overall, the bomb has been defused. The potential dangerous timing of the medevac has all but passed. As with Blink completed, the medevac is now risking its life whenever it gets in range of those Blink Stalkers. If it shows its face anywhere, well, a blink and he'll be missing it. And the Stalkers are actually on the chase, though Clim has already backed off far enough that they're not going to be deadly. And MaxPax has 4 gates. I'm not sure, well, Clem didn't scout at quite the timing to see that. Did he see? No, he never got into the main. He never saw the 4 gates. He may not realize the magnitude of units that could be arrayed against him, though clearly he's anticipating some form of aggression. Putting together the bulwark in the main base, 2 siege tanks, bunker at the natural. But charge is already on the way, as MaxPax is swerving into much more direct sort of aggression. Blinks into the main, slurps it back into the safety prism. The medevac will actually... Clem moves out at that exact moment, trying to take advantage of probably a very temporary reprieve. That's so many Stalkers, actually. And there's 2 tanks in the main, which is too many. The bunker will just be blunked down. And there's not really that much else. He's blinking back the Stalkers with the prism as well. There's just not enough units. The tanks have to move up. But Clem has already lost so much, he might be able to blink forward onto the tanks. There's 1 on the low ground. Stim is almost done, but there's almost no units left to deal with it. The 3rd base is completed. The medevac finally found somewhere to drop off its payload, and he recalls back with a big chunk of the Stalkers. There's still enough to potentially get damage done. He tries the chase, and Clem kills 2 probes in return for 15 SCVs. That's not enough. Combat shield +1, but the Stalkers find the medevac, the boost, but it's going to be too late. Oh, well. Clem actually manages to get away with it, and he pushes back the units at the front. Charge is completed, though. How many Zealots? 0. So, and charge later, sort of thing. Another couple medevacs loaded up as Clem is... MaxPax anticipates it. The Stalkers are spotted. A few more in the main, just making everything difficult. Oh no! And the Stalkers, the medevacs won! And before the second one goes down, Clem is already out of there. GG. MaxPax knocks Clem out of the sky. He dropped one too many times. And now he'll be dropping the series itself. Well, another topsy-turvy match between the two youngest top-tier players in the game. But certainly living up to their names. Or reputation. I don't know what their names would mean in this. That is just Clem's name. His name is Clement, so it's like a J-Dong situation. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Maybe even more. But thank you for watching. If you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Monday Night Weeklies. Find it in the description or the comments or on Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing and hyping are still free, at least for now. So thank you to our meal tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big, Jiggy, Devin, Dor, Kate, Mario, Suit. Make sure to check out this video that Jimmy picked out just for you. And thank you for watching again. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill. See you next time.